Welcome back to another episode of the Pax What She Said podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Maggie Loney, joined as always by Perry Goldstein. And we've got the first of a just 3-game division slog, technically 4 of the next 5 coming up here. Packers hosting the Vikings at Lambeau Field at noon on Sunday. Lot going into this one, right? I mean, there's a lot of storylines here, most notably potentially the fact that the Packers have to do it again on Thursday at noon. So a very short turnaround to play the Vikings and the Lions. And then knowing they have the Bears down the stretch there in like a 10-day span, just a probably the toughest stretch of the schedule now remaining for the Packers.
It's just like the concentration of division games at this point of the season. I don't know if it's just my perception or if it's the truth, but it raises the stakes a little bit more on each of these. Like the wins feel so much more important and the losses feel so much more brutal.
Yeah, and I mean, I think especially with the standings being so even, right? The Bears are 7-3. They lost 2 games originally to the Vikings and the Lions, and they just beat the Vikings. So they're kind of sitting at like 1-2. The Lions lost already to the Packers once. They lost to the Vikings once. They beat the Bears. Like, so kind of where you stand in the division as things shake out, like these games are potentially where a team is going to pull away to become the front runner while the other teams are kind of vying for a wild card spot. So the Packers have to do their damnedest to take care of these opponents because we saw last season, obviously they were a blocked kick away from going 0-6. So they started out well, right? Week 1, claiming that win against the Lions, but now they have to build on that with a not that great Vikings team that has been struggling.
Yeah, I mean, the struggling of the Vikings like just makes me for some reason nervous. Because from their perspective, like what a better game to kind of start to get back on track than against the Packers. But I do feel like their season might be a little bit too far gone at this point. So you're seeing a lot of frustration bubble over on the offense. You're seeing, questions surrounding JJ McCarthy and his future in Minnesota because of the way that he's played and the expectations that were put him in. There's a lot that they're dealing with other than just like their issues on the field. So as long as the Packers can kind of stay focused on their side of the street and just do what needs to be done and not let all the emotion of this sort of rivalry game get in the way, I don't see any reason why the Packers should be dropping this game against the Vikings. Like they are a superior football team from start to finish. They just have to play like one.
Yeah, so let's talk first then about the Vikings offense because there are a lot of, storylines going into this one. I think most notably, of course, is that JJ McCarthy is back healthy as their starter. So he will be kind of in his quote unquote rookie season after actually sitting out his entire rookie season with the injury. This is the first time the Packers will be seeing him. It is a struggling offense. They're 31st in the league on third downs, which is not a way to live in the NFL.
No.
They are doing okay, I guess, like 30th in rushing attempts, 25th in rushing yards, 20th in passing attempts, 23rd in passing yards, 24th in passing touchdowns. So they're just kind of in like that bottom third of the league in a lot of statistics on offense. And they've gone 7 straight games with a turnover. Multiple games this season, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different games where they've had 2+ turnovers on offense. So not doing a very good job protecting the football.
That's a lot of bad. Not to add one more, but half of their offensive line is on the injury report. They only have 5 people on the injury report. We'll get to the Packers.
We sure will.
Long, like what I call novel of an injury report. But the Vikings only have 5, and 3 of them are their starting offensive linemen. So not great. To also add that they are going to have potentially a really hard time protecting JJ McCarthy, even more so on Sunday, as well as I can't imagine that a backup offensive line is going to start moving and shaking the run game. So just things are not pointing in the right direction for the Vikings. And I think that there's a lot that the Packers defense can exploit. They obviously didn't have necessarily their best, most dominant game against the Giants, but seeing how they played against the Eagles, I think they play their very aggressive, downhill style of defense against this team. The Vikings are going to have a really hard time moving the ball in any kind of rhythm or regularity. It would be great for the Packers defense to get a turnover or two. They've been in kind of fits and spurts.
So close.
But I'd say for the most part, they've had kind of not a hard time taking the ball away, but it hasn't come as easily as in past years. So it would be great to see them make at least one, if not two, kind of game-changing plays to put their offense in the position to good field position and to score.
Yeah, and I mean, both Carson Wentz and JJ McCarthy started 5 games. They both went 2-3 as their records. Both have thrown 6 touchdowns, but JJ McCarthy kind of stands out in the interception category. He's thrown 8 picks to those 6 touchdowns. So obviously just kind of struggling to protect the football. And you know that he is going to give you an opportunity, right? Like we saw it against the Bears last week. Bears came back to kind of win that one in the very last seconds on a field goal. So I think that there are going to be ample opportunities. We saw they had like 4 or 5 opportunities against the Giants, and Evan Williams finally called the game in the final second. So I would assume, right, that the Packers will have their opportunities to do the same thing against the Giants. But I don't know if this, like, I guess, you see it on the stat sheet and you're like, okay, well, that makes sense if you think back through the games. But it is very surprising to me that we're this far into the season and the Packers only have 4 interceptions, and those are from 2 guys and they're 2 safeties.
Yeah. It is interesting because there have been so many opportunities, and I do really feel like Harrington Valentine is like this close.
He's making a house call this season.
He's this close. Like he really is playing it correctly. And I'll live and die on this hill that, like, if what we get is a group of corners that are excellent at PBUs, like, I will take that any day. I don't know that I would say that this cornerback group is consistently excellent at PBUs. However, there's something, I don't know. There is something to be said about the safeties being the one to kind of clean up, if you will. So if that's what continues to happen, then that's what continues to happen. I will say, like, just to make sure we do this offense justice, our corners are going to be going up against potentially, in the conversation as the best 1-2 at wide receiver this week. And that's not nothing. Like, we have watched them struggle to kind of give up some of the underneath stuff. And, I think that's a lot of the bend, don't break that we're seeing, and fine, because Jordan Addison and oh my God, I'm having a brain fart. And Justin Jefferson, thank you. There's too many JJs on this team. Are, they can take the top off at any given moment, and we've seen it. But they can also, just with the ball in their hands and in space, get yards after the catch. They can do everything, both of them. So it's going to be a big day for some pretty tight man coverage. I don't know how much I want Jeff Hafley to be playing zone in this game, because I just think that you can exploit that like to no end, and then you're already having an issue where you're having an issue where you're just watching this offense like move the ball down the field in a way that you're like, why is this defense letting them kind of cut them on these like quick slants? That's again saying that JJ McCarthy can get the ball to Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. However, if he can, or if, Kevin O'Connell can scheme up just enough, like, they're scary. They're definitely 2 scary wide receivers with the ball in space.
Yeah, and I think that's been like one of the most surprising aspects of this season is that Justin Jefferson has only found the end zone twice, right? So like, you don't want this to be the game where he suddenly has a hat trick and like rediscovers how to get
that he can score. What do you
But
think
yeah,
about that though? Like what would you how would you like to see this defense play?
I think you're right that I don't think you can just kind of like sit in soft zones because they do have the capability to take the top off of the secondary, even though the Packers secondary has been playing well. Um, and you saw opportunities because last week the Giants wide receivers were not the elite of the elite, right? Like that was a very different receiving core. But like to that note, the Packers have seen some really good receiving tandems, right? They had Amon Ra in week 1 and Jameson Williams and that entire unit. Then against the Bengals, you saw like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. So they've certainly seen like talented receivers. This isn't going to be the first time they see somebody of like a Justin Jefferson caliber, but it certainly is not the time to kind of start playing the bend don't break and like try to keep everything softly in front of you, because to the Vikings credit, probably the strength of their offense is their O-line. They have one of the better offensive lines, even with kind of, you said the
The
injuries that are
injuries.
stacking up for them on the injury report. So if their guys are out there, JJ's going to have some time. Like we want to see more of the Packers pass rush. It kind of feels like some of the guys that were rising around Micah have disappeared in the last couple weeks.
Yes.
So we need to see that pick up, especially as well. Maybe this is a good time to shift to the injury report if Quay Walker can't go, because he is on the injury report this week and he's banged up. So
Yeah.
you need to see some press man just to give those edge rushers that extra half a second to try to get in JJ's face.
I want to see more man because I think this team, like with the kind of hard nosed style that some of them like to play, I just think it suits their skill
It
set.
does.
And like the rush is so bizarre this year because they are getting pressure. Like they are getting pressure. And if the coverage is there, man, then like they can get, I can just see them like getting enough coverage sacks, or like you can't block Micah Parsons forever and he's like going to end up getting home. So I don't, that is all to say I'm not a defensive coordinator, and we will see, but I don't know that it feel, especially if you're going to continue to play Carrington Valentine as your boundary starter, like that is, he is right. That is how he plays. I'm glad you brought up the injury report because there are 18 players on the injury report. The notable did not participate, which you mentioned, Quay Walker with the neck stinger. I think I'm in the camp of expecting him not to play with an injury like that.
Yeah.
Especially with another game upcoming around the corner. Nate Hobbs, which we knew he's been banged up. We don't know when he's returning. And then Carl Brooks is on there with an ankle injury. So again, not the best when you're out LVN, and you're seeing Rashawn Gary's snap count go down a little bit. You just like cannot lose any more bodies on defensive front. Everyone else is limited. I don't know how seriously to take some of them, like Javon Bullard, Edge Cooper. Feels like they will play. Bo Melton popped up with a shoulder today. That's not great, although he's more of an offensive player right now. Keyshawn Nixon is sick, so he should probably be fine. TBD if LVN goes this week or not. He's like somewhat practicing, somewhat not. We're not sure when he's going to be game ready, and even if he is game ready, he's going to be on a snap count. So that's like everyone. And I didn't even get to the offense yet.
Yeah, it doesn't feel great. Like it'd be different if this was like if the Vikings Packers game was on Thursday night and then you had like the quote unquote mini bye before you played Detroit. But the fact that you have this one and then 4 days later at noon, not Thursday night, like you as short of a turnaround as you could possibly have. It's time then to prep these guys. So I am suspicious that a lot of them will play in this one. I think that the Packers are just going to have to make do. Josh Jacobs adding to that. I know you said you didn't get to the offense, but he is limited. I kind of doubt he plays on Sunday. I don't necessarily think that the Packers offense needs him to be able to win this one on Sunday. but you certainly
Yeah,
don't want to be like missing out on a lot of those big defensive pieces.
yeah, you don't want to be without him for the Lions, I
Right.
think, if you're thinking about the next 3 games, really, as where you have to make your decisions, not just for this week, but for the next 3 games. Okay, then let me give the offense injury report. How about that? Romeo Doubs with a wrist, Matthew Golden with that shoulder again. We mentioned Josh Jacobs. Jordan Love is a full participant, which is great. Sounds like the shoulder is a non-issue. I mentioned Bo Melton because he's both. Zach Tom with his back is a limited participant. Kind of sounds like that's something he's just going to be handling all season long, and he'll play through it, which we can talk about the merits of that. Christian Watson limited with a knee, Dontavian Wicks limited with a calf, and Savion Williams moved from did not participate to limited participation today with the foot. Mm-hmm. So again, that's everyone. And I feel like everyone's going to play. It's just a matter of how do we not re-aggravate everything that's going on.
Yeah, and just a really random stat that I saw today. I can't remember who had it, so apologies for not attributing. But there have been 45 NFL players who have returned 3 or more punts this season in yards per attempt, and 43rd is Romeo Doubs, 44th is Matthew Golden, and 45th is Keyshawn Nixon. So of the 45 players who have returned 3 or more punts, the Packers have the worst 3. And all 3 of those guys are injured.
But cutting Mecole Hardman was a good idea.
So just something just because you listed all 3 of them, it made me think of that. Like, oh, yeah, that's not, and I'm not saying that the Packers necessarily need like a designated punt returner. However, it is interesting that the numbers have been that dramatic for their return men.
I mean, none of it surprises me anymore. Like, we talk about Packers special teams, it's just bad. Okay, time to move on. Good talk. Bad.
Although Brandon McManus, full participant in practice.
Great. Great. I feel so excited about that. My spirits are lifted.
He's going to kick the game winner. We'll see. We're manifesting. Okay.
We're manifesting. Okay. Now that our manifesting is done, let's talk about this Vikings defense. What can the Packers do to beat this team, Maggie?
Well, the Vikings defense is kind of an enigma this year. Like for being a Brian Flores led defense, 16th in points against, so they're averaging like 23 points per game. 3 turnovers or 3 interceptions, I should say, all season. So really kind of quiet from their secondary. It felt like they had a ton of play in the secondary last season. They are 30th in rushing attempts, so teams not necessarily running the ball against them a ton. But yeah, they really like lock things down in the red zone. They're 4th in red zone defense, 48% touchdown success rate against the Vikings. So, and also pretty good on third downs, which, we saw the Packers are the best team in the league on third downs this season. 4th in red zone offense. So this might be one of those like immovable force, unbreakable object kind of things. Like it's going to be really interesting if the Packers get into the red zone to see like what that looks like. Because these are 2 really good football teams respectively on offense and defense in the red zone.
Well, one of them's got to break.
Right. Just not the Packers, please.
What one of them's got to give on this stat. Same with I was going to say same with third down, but I meant more that I hope the Packers can continue on their streak of good percentage on third down. I don't know what to think about this defense either. I feel like history tells me a Brian Flores led team led unit, not team, is one you should never sleep on and never underestimate. Just because of the nature of like the way he plays and his disguises and the way he can confuse you. Although I've also seen Jordan Love just absolutely carve up a Brian Flores defense. So I'd like to see the Packers continue this sort of streak, 1-game streak of letting Jordan Love sling it, especially if Josh Jacobs is out, especially if the strength of the Vikings defense is their rush defense. So that would be my one thing. However, I'll also remind everyone that it is Toyotathon. It has officially started. So that is where we see Jordan Love come alive. I just hope Matt also would like to see Jordan come alive.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I think whether or not Josh Jacobs plays, like the ground game has been reliable enough this season where it's not like flashy, but we've seen them struggle, especially behind this O line. And I'm not saying that like, this offensive line is gonna all of a sudden find success um and allow Jordan Love to sling it as much as we would like. But we did see pieces of that, right? Like I thought the offensive line played pretty well against the Giants. So that is certainly something you would hope to build off of. Like I know center isn't Sean Ryan's natural position, but he's cross-trained at it enough to be able to go out there and do like a serviceable job at it, which I thought he did on Sunday. So yeah, I think this game is going to have to be like a Jordan Love, put the team on his shoulders, which as I say that, realizing the poor man has an injured left shoulder, but
A
yeah,
singular
it's
shoulder.
he can put the team on his right shoulder.
Right shoulder. It's the one that's most important anyway.
But yeah, I mean, I think like whether or not Josh Jacobs plays, like your run game is going to be able to do enough, but it's going to be one of those like live or die by Jordan Love games. And assuming that he can find pockets to attack in this Viking secondary, which there will be opportunities to do that this season, like or there have been, I should say, so far from other offenses this season. Like it's a Jordan Love game. We have to see a really clean game.
Live or die by Jordan has been like I feel like there hasn't really been a single game this season. You correct me if I'm wrong, that it's like been like, oh, this game was Jordan's fault. Like I feel very confident to live and die by Jordan because we've been living. I mean, he's been protecting the ball so well. I think even like on botched snap, there's definitely been moments that could have easily been like worse outcomes, and he's done such a good job protecting the football. So I feel confident that they can live and die by Jordan if his receivers catch passes and his offensive line protects him.
I'm glad you mentioned the catching passes thing because that's a big piece of it. And I think like the one example that came to mind right away was the Panthers game when he threw the really terrible interception to like triple coverage. But to me, that falls more into the play calling of it all. Like if Matt LaFleur calls the kind of game that we saw against the Giants, where it's not like inside zone run, take a shot on 3rd and 8, like, if you mix up some of your play calling and you incorporate like a little bit of play action and you get some of the intermediate stuff going, like absolutely, I'm 1000% comfortable to live and die by Jordan. If Jordan is feeling that need, like we said, to put the team on his back, put the team on his singular shoulder when they're in these 3rd and long situations and it is a struggle to move the chains, then I think that's where we see like the yeet ball, like Jordan come out because he's trying to make something happen.
Yeah.
But if he has the opportunity to just run the offense that we've seen Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love run in the past, then yeah, I think it's a good day at the office for them.
Great. Okay, so final thoughts, predictions. How important is this game in the grand scheme of the next stretch of football for the Packers?
I think you have to win. Like, I don't want to call it like the must-win game of the season, but you're going into Detroit on a short week. Then you've got the Bears, who are right now the front runners in the division. And the Bears have a really, really tough remaining schedule. But guess what? So do the Packers, right? Statistically, the Packers and the Bears are tied for first with the toughest remaining strength of schedule. So that's not going to be easy by any stretch, right? They've got 4 division games coming up. And you've also got the Broncos in there who are leading the AFC West. And then your one final like wild card of it all is the Ravens, who are kind of coming into their own as a football team and will be putting themselves in contention by late December, potentially to be a wild card team. Or, honestly, they could even be in it to win the division. It depends what happens with Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. Like, everything is wide open. So this is a really tough gauntlet for the Packers. And if you want to keep pace and have an opportunity to be in the playoffs, especially as a wild card spot, like, you have to win these division games. Like, if you drop the Broncos game, if you drop the Ravens game, it sucks, but it's less important than these NFC games. And these are the only NFC games that you have left, right? Are the ones against your own division.
That's why I keep saying, like, these feel just so much weightier. Like, this is it. This could be the tiebreaker for the division. This could mean, you said it before, the difference between the 2 seed or a bye week versus the 7 seed and being on the road. Like, these are huge games, not to put more pressure on them. And I want this team to keep the mantra of, like, let's keep going 1-0 every week. But you have your tough division matchup stretch along with a kind of brutal, like, travel and just, like, timing schedule. So there's also the element of trying to keep guys healthy while not trying to look too far ahead at what's around the corner, but also knowing, like, you can't not plan for what's next either, which is totally Matt's job to get his guys ready and just have his guys focus on the game at task. But I think that if you go in, you're at home, you get a good win against the Vikings, feeling better about starting this stretch 1-0 versus being behind the 8 ball going into Detroit. Because then that game feels so much scarier in terms of, like, what it means for the division and playoffs, etc.
It's just kind of insane to think about the fact that we're entering week 12 and the only games you have left in the NFC, you have 5 games left against NFC opponents, and it's only your division. Like, it's 2 Vikings games, 2 Bears games, and 1 Lions game left.
Awful.
And that's just, like,
terrible.
That doesn't happen often. So, we've seen the Packers have to win out, right? Under Matt LaFleur, we've seen them be successful in doing that. We've seen them get hot at the right time. And I think if the Giants game was any indication, like, their arrow is still pointing up, right? Like, nobody's writing off this Packers team. They still deserve a wild card spot right now, but you have to hang on then. Like, this is where the games really, really matter. So
they don't need to win out. They have 3 losses, but they have to have an over 500 record for the rest of the season. Like, they cannot drop any more stupid games against lesser opponents. They have to start getting hot.
Yeah, and, like, division games suck.
Yeah,
they're weird. Like, the worst team in your division can give you an upset any day of the week. Like, it's the most familiar opponent that you see, and they know your tendencies and they know your deficiencies. And, by that token, like, you should also know how to play against them. Like, it's going to be a very fun game to watch, right? Like, Kevin O'Connell against Jeff Hafley and Matt LaFleur against Brian Flores is, like, must-see TV. Like, those are some incredible matchups. But the Vikings are the lesser opponent, right? I think they're looking towards 2026. Like, they know they're not in it this year. So the best they can do is play spoiler. And those teams, unfortunately, are sometimes the most dangerous because who better to spoil it against than your division rivals? They just lost the one that they should have won against the Bears. So, this is a dangerous Vikings team. But that said, I think the Packers take care of business on Sunday at home.
I agree with you 100%.
Do you have a score?
No.
I'm going to say 27. 27. That feels confident and comfortable. 27-21.
Perfect. Love it. Put it in the books.
Put it in the books. All right. I think that's it. I think that's all we got. We will be back with, hopefully, a very fun Victory Monday. Then to turn it around on a really short week before the holiday, for Thanksgiving. But thank you, as always, for listening to the show. You can find us at PWSS Podcast and at Pax What She Said. Like and subscribe to the show if you don't already. We really appreciate it. Perry at Perry_Goldstein. Me at Maggie J. Loney. Thank you, as always, for listening, and go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.